Come with me to visit Barrington Tops National Park as we explore Gloucester Tops together. This is one of my favourite places in the world. The Gloucester Tops waterfalls and the bushwalks up there are just stunning. When you first come into the park, you come into the camping area down the bottom. Now, look, this is National Park. I choose not to stay here purely because I stay at the caravan park, which is less than 5 k's down the road. As a single solo female traveller, I feel safer staying in the caravan park, and it's only $15 per person at the caravan park, so it's even cheaper than the national park. But this is a great campground if you're happy to stay in national parks. There are fire pits for each of the campsites. There is some information on the sign about how to book and the fee information. There is no service here, so you do need to book before you come in. I love national parks that you get to learn some history of the area, and this Barrington Tops National Park is no different. There's quite a lot of information around. As you drive up a little bit further, there are some more little campgrounds. So the campgrounds do have pit toilets, and there's so much wildlife around. Some places even have a little bit of mobile phone services, so they have the signs there to say where it is. After the campground, you head up a 16-kilometre windy dirt. The dirt road heading up to Gloucester Tops is two-wheel drive accessible, and it's in pretty good condition actually. My Hyundai Kona handled it really well. Some places are a little bit narrow, but if there's something coming the other way, there's a bit of space to move over off the road. So once you get up at the top, there is a car park and a picnic area, but if you just go up into the main car park, again, there are some toilets up there, some pit toilets. Look, the road to the main car park from Gloucester Tops Road was a bit bumpier, as you can see here, but once you get up there, you can park. There's plenty of parking. There's some picnic tables, more information about Gloucester Tops area and the bird life. There's some information on the Antarctic beach trees, and there's a really good walk that you can do that takes you down the Antarctic beach trail. Now, there are lots of walking trails up here, so it depends on what your fitness level is, what you prefer. You don't have to walk all of them. Some of them are a little bit shorter. The tracks are really, really well marked, so as long as you stay on the trail, you can't get lost. It is really easy to just follow the track around. I walked around to the waterfalls first because that's one of my favourite parts of Gloucester Tops. So the track was just super easy to follow. I walked around for signposts, so if you just follow the signs, it'll tell you which way to go. Walking around to the waterfall first, you sort of come down to Gloucester River and you walk along the side of the river so you can hear the river before you can even see it. The Gloucester Falls walking track is a pretty easy track. It's a 1.8 kilometre loop. It's a grade 3. Which means that there's some experience required. That's what's recommended, but it's pretty clearly signposted. There's a few steep, short hills, and there's occasional steps. Now, it's a formed track, but there's a few obstacles that pop up on the track as you're heading round. So just be aware of your footing. It can get a bit slippery too when it's raining in there. I mean, look at this scenery. It's just absolutely beautiful. It's like walking through the middle of a rainforest. It's just so gorgeous. But because I was there in winter, it was very cold. It hit a top of 10 degrees at midday. So it is just worth, taking an extra jumper with you if you want to keep warm. The weather turns. So the track leads through some sub-alpine woodlands of snow gums, which is just absolutely stunning. I really love the terrain here because you get a really good diversity, so that you can see out over the gorges, you can see down over the river, and the scenery is just absolutely stunning. A little bit rocky and uneven in area. Like any bushwalking, it's a good idea to let somebody know where you are. and just to give a kind of time frame that they expect to hear from you again. Be very mindful around the river. There is really strong currents in the river with the waterfall there, so and lots of submerged rocks, so just be careful near the river. In summer you can swim in there, but in winter it is way too cold. Once you walk around this pathway, you come down to a viewing platform. This just extends out, and you can look out over where the river plunges over the plateau into the valley below. So it just shows you some of the Gloucester Falls there, and you can hear it before you get there. Like, you can hear this roar of the water falling. It's just so magical that you can hear it before you can see it, and then you can sort of peek through the tops of the trees there and you can see the waterfall coming down. It's just stunning. I mean, it was just a beautiful day when I was there. The weather was just so clear, and you could just watch the water coming down over the waterfalls. So it's very mesmerizing, actually. It's just fun fact, so the rainforest areas in Barrington Tops National Parks are part of the Gondwana Rainforests of Australia World Heritage Area. So that is the most extensive strip of diverse rainforest anywhere on Earth. Isn't that magical? So after visiting the platform and looking down over the waterfalls, I continue around on the loop and just headed back towards the Gloucester Falls track and headed towards the lookout over the valley. So it was a little bit rocky heading up to start with, but once you got back up onto the main track, it was again very, very clearly defined and just a nice track to walk on. Like I said, it's a grade 3, so they do recommend some bushwalking experience, but I don't think it was a difficult track by any means. I do think that you probably need a little bit of physical fitness, just because there are some steep areas that you need to sort of go up, and having a little bit of a sure footing, because there's not really handrails or anything as you're climbing over some of the rocks. So my recommendation is just take it slow, careful when it's wet, it gets super slippery, but other than that, it's a pretty good walk to walk around. So most of Barrington Tops is also declared wilderness, and wilderness areas in New South Wales represent the largest and pristine natural areas within the state. So Barrington Tops around the edges of the wilderness are quite easily accessible, but you'll notice very varied textures in the forest, and the terrain is quite diverse. It differs a lot as you're walking around the track. Now, once you get a bit further, you come up to Andrew Laurie Lookout. Now, this is one of the most spectacular views that you will see. On a clear day, like it was when I was there, I felt like I could see almost to the coast. It was just absolutely spectacular. I stood there for quite a long time to have a look at the terrain there, because it was just beautiful. Now I'll take the camera up and give you a look, and I was really lucky that I was there on a very, very clear day, but holy moly, look at that. It blew my mind. I stood there for such a long time looking out over I honestly think that that's what it must feel like to be on top of the world. It was such a magical feeling to be looking out over the valley like that. So spectacular. So the lookout has got a little bit of information there about Andrew Laurie. So he was one of the first settlers in the area, and he actually worked tirelessly to make this into National Park, a protected wilderness protected environment, and keep it completely unchanged for many, many years. Now, like I said, I was here in July, so it was actually eerily quiet. I didn't see a lot of wildlife and I didn't hear a lot of birds, but it was the middle of winter and it was really quite cool. So even though the weather was stunning and the sun was shining, The weather was really quite cool, so I could see the markings of wildlife as I walked around, but yeah, I didn't see any. There were a few other people walking around the track while I was there as well, so the presence of humans might have made the wildlife to duck a little bit further into the bush away from the track. Now, I walk this track on my own as a solo 50-year-old woman and felt perfectly safe the whole time I was there. I did see other people, and the other people that were there when I were walking were, I think there were 3 sets of couples that were also walking around the track as well. I didn't feel unsafe at any stage, and it was just a really comfortable walk to walk around there by myself. So the area I was walking around, the Gloucester Tops picnic area and the Gloucester Falls walk, you can extend that out a little bit further and do the full Gloucester Tops circuit and river track, and that can be up to an 8-kilometre walk. You can go down a little bit further on this track as well and go into the Antarctic Beach Forest track, which just has some absolutely stunning scenery with the trees and wildlife in that area. Now you can extend your walk a little bit longer if you want to and do the Gloucester Tops circuits. So this one is an 8-kilometre loop, and it combines 3 of the most popular walks in the Barrington Tops, Gloucester Tops area. This just is a little bit longer. It suggests around 3 to 5 hours, and this one's kind of a grade 4. It just has quite a few more steps if you want to go and do the full circuit. But make sure you check the weather before setting out for this one, because I have got caught before where the weather has turned really quickly up here. And it just, especially if you've got a 2-wheel drive car, just to make sure that you can get back down that windy 6-kilometre dirt track. But the terrain and the walking area is just stunning. Like, I just wandered around. I took my time. I was in no hurry at all, and I just took all the scenery while I was up there. So I just found it a really beautiful, peaceful place. Walking back along the track after the lookout, I did head back towards the falls again. I just wanted to spend a little bit more time closer to the river because it was such a stunning day and the falls were just so beautiful. So there were a couple of little tracks down to the river, so I went down and sat down there for a little while and just took in the scenery. I feel like if you were there at the right type of day, you might actually see platypus in this area. It's definitely platypus country, and some of the terrain looked like it was possible for platypus burrows to be along the shoreline there. It was just soul food sitting here though. It was so relaxing. I just really enjoyed my time sitting there next to the river. Did have a little feel of the water, and predictably it was icy cold for July. The Gloucester Tops and Barrington Tops National Park have a really strong Indigenous heritage, and please forgive me if I get these names pronounced incorrectly, but they are the traditional lands of the Biripi, the Warramai, the Rigaringai, the Juwagal, the Warranara people, and the rainforests in the Barrington Tops just had amazing resources for Aboriginal people in the past. Today, the history of the Barrington Tops Park is recorded in oral history and in the presence of Aboriginal sites. So the Barrington Tops National Park protects the ancient campsites, scarred trees and sacred ceremonial places. The feeling of spending time in the park and around the falls to me was just magical, and I definitely spent a little bit of time reflecting on ages in the past and what this country would have been like for the Indigenous inhabitants in the past. It was just a really powerful place to spend some time, and I think when we reflect on the history of the area, then it just makes us appreciate how special and how spectacular this landscape is and how important it was to our Indigenous heritage. It's the kind of place that you could just spend some time and feel like you've just removed from the entire modern world. And for me personally, I find that really good for my soul and a way to recharge. And I prefer to do these walks solo and just listen to nature and listen to the river. And it was just such a recharging experience. I sat there for quite a while over the top of the waterfall and just watched the water and listened to it. I don't think I will ever tire of chasing waterfalls. I feel like if it was a profession, then it would definitely be something I would pursue. Chasing waterfalls sounds like a pretty good job title to me. um, Once I climbed back up this bit of a slippery slope, from being down close to the waterfall, that was a little bit of a challenge, but I'm definitely glad that I walked down closer to the river because it was just such a beautiful spot to see it. So I walked back along the track then back towards the car park, but I decided to extend and do a little bit of the Gloucester Circuit walk, and the whole landscape just seemed to change again. Moving a bit further away from the river, it kind of lost that rainforesty feel of it and was more like a eucalyptus forest, more like just bushland. But I just trekked back along there and headed down a couple of little gullies, and it was just so pretty. I just really enjoyed walking along there. In spring, the landscape changes completely again, and all the wildflowers pop up, which makes it just such a pretty walk. To walk through there. And in summer, of course, you get a lot more of the wildlife. So this is a really renowned bird watching area as well. So while it was a little bit quiet when I was there in July, I've been to this area in summer, and there is so much more wildlife and bird life around. But with that too, you have to be super careful because there are lots of snakes, lots of tiger snakes actually in this area. So just make sure you wear appropriate footwear. But oh, how pretty is this little creek with stepping stones? It was like being in a fantasy movie as I was just stepping across the stones there with all the moss and walking up the little stairs. It was just such a pretty little walk. So come down there and headed along. And it got a little bit cooler too as you headed back down under the canopy of the trees. But I'd been walking for a bit, so it didn't take long to warm back up again. And headed back along the track down towards the Gloucester Circuit walk. So as you sort of come a bit further out and the canopy lessened a bit and the trees were a little bit more sparse, then definitely some of this moss on the trees dried up and you didn't see as much as that as you walked up along the paths. So this walk just extended along the river a little bit further, so more along the north end of the river, and just got a little bit more rocky. The path was not as well defined, but you could still see it very clearly. But look how much open it is there. The terrain has just changed again. And when you walk down that one actually brings you out at the Gloucester Tops picnic area, and you come out onto a little dirt road there. Now, once you come out into the picnic area, there's a couple of choices there. There are some more bushwalks that you could go on, and you could sort of wade across the river there and continue on the circuit, which takes it a little bit further and takes you onto the river walk. But the other option is you can just walk back up the dirt road. And just by trekking back up that dirt road, I think it was about 750 metres, you could walk back up that road that took you back up to the car park area. So I had a little look at some of the other walks, but I didn't wade across the river there. I decided to turn around and walk back up the dirt road. So a bit of a slow incline on that one, which I was definitely puffing a bit coming up this hill.